Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are tuning in from. This is another episode of the Online Hustle Podcast. And today we have Pete DuPont, who is the head of UK partnerships at base.com. So if you can just give us a little wave there, Pete. Hello.
Good morning, good evening, everybody.
Before we really get into it, Pete, if you don't mind just giving us a bit of backstory, who you are, what you do, and then we can take it from there.
Absolutely, yeah. Thanks for having me on. In terms of who I am, Pete DuPont, expertly introduced, by the way. I'm currently the head of partnerships at Base. I came into sort of e-commerce a little bit of a transient path from being a musician in a previous life. I was looking for a sort of a role that was more in terms of linked with the music industry, and I found that I came into a music gifting business who was starting up, had links, was selling online, had connections with the music industry. It was about growing the brand. It was about selling online and growing into that sort of vendor side of building up a business, selling on multiple channels. That was D2C, B2B, and marketplaces. And gradually that role has taken me through from being a vendor to the other side of being on the operational side, so working on marketplaces in partnerships. For example, at OnBuy marketplace, you may know, through logistics agencies, and now here I am at Base on the tech side.
Nice. So you keep saying Base, and for everybody who doesn't already know what Base is, what Base does, can you just give us a bit of a backstory into that? Just Base in a nutshell. How do you explain what you do? What's the mission? And what makes Base different from, usual brand accelerators within the space?
Yeah, so Base is an end-to-end multi-channel management platform that connects all your online sales channels. So again, that's your marketplaces, it's your TikTok shops, it's your websites or Shopify's, your WooCommerces, etc. All in one centralized platform. It's a really broad tool that has elements from a PIM, so where you store your data to list on marketplaces. It's a repricing tool, it's an inventory management tool, it's a listing tool to get your products onto marketplaces. And again, it's a way of centralizing everything in a world of looking at multi-channel, all in one place to manage all your orders. We have a WMS, so warehouse management software, pick and pack solution within the platform as well as analytics. So it's a very broad tool that's based for looking for e-commerce sellers to try and kind of get a bit of control back of the craziness of selling multi-channel, but also it's a scaling tool. So once you're in the system, how do I join new channels? How do I sell more and grow my business?
Okay.
Compared to others, I think Base is relatively unique in the sense of it's a very agile tool. So within the tool, you can set up all these rules and automations to help the tool fit your business. Every business is unique in the way they operate and the teams they have to be able to get products online and also, of course, out the warehouse. Pricing is pretty unique too, where there is no contract, there is no fixed threshold to hit in terms of pricing, and it's purely pay as you go. So depending on the size of the business, typically it's based on order volume. So between 105,000 orders per month, you pay 19 pence per order, and it fluctuates. So if you have a quiet month of 101 orders, you pay 19 pence for that order, plus the £29 monthly subscription.
Yeah.
You suddenly have a great month the next month of 4,500, you still pay 19 pence per order. Well, it fluctuates with your success. So when you have a quieter month, you're not penalized, again, trying to hit a fixed threshold.
Sure. And what about when you go above that threshold? And do you guys also give people guidance and consultation on like what platforms might be best for them next? So, if somebody's selling on Amazon and then eBay and then OnBuy, like you said, and then they're looking at maybe new platforms that they can start opening up on to expand their business further, can you give them insight and expertise on where to potentially go next so they can strategically evolve with the market?
Yes and no. I think there are different elements to what people come to Base for. So as a platform, there are 1,700 integrations, of which 370 plus are marketplaces alone. So within that tool, there's that huge global scope to grow your brand. Okay. And we have 30,000 sellers using the tool with that in mind. How do I grow my business? What we do in the UK team particularly is look at the strategic element of working with your account. So whilst we're not an agency or an accelerator in that sort of consultative approach, we have account management and key account management to say your product should be selling really well on other marketplaces like B&Q or Temu or eBay, for example. How can we get you there through partnerships? How can we introduce you to those marketplaces and show you the opportunity to be able to sell and grow your business? So we're not an agency. We have some great agency partners who can help in that sense. We certainly have the tools at our disposal to be able to make those introductions to accelerate on new channels.
Got it. Okay. I think it's one of those things where when people are expanding their business overseas or into new platforms, a lot of people try to juggle too many different things at once as well, which can often lead to, the implementation of these plans sort of falling because there's too many different elements going on at once. So what do you think to that? What do you think about focusing specifically on one area? And if you were to focus specifically on one area when growing your business, what would it be for you?
I think selling well is a difficult thing, right? And there's so many moving parts to it. The complexity of it really depends on the maturity of your business. And by that, I mean, what is your team structure? What are your operations? And that includes tech as well. But also, how aggressive do you want to be and how quickly do you want to scale? I think there are typically two approaches, right? From growing your sales on channels, and both of them have merits in different ways. One is this sort of scattergun approach of testing as many marketplaces as you can, testing new markets even perhaps, or new products, and really pushing your brand out there to try and, use those marketplaces who have that audience who are ready to try and find your product. This, in contrast, is that slow and steady and more focused approach on the way you might be able to just have a bit of an element of control and more strategy on what you do. For me, those key areas to focus on is really about the integrity of your brand or your business. Are the channels that you're selling on the right ones for you and your brand? And can you manage the continuity of the messaging of your brand across those channels? Again, operationally, do you have a good way of using or centralized data to make sure your brand is represented well on all those channels? Do you have a PIM, again, or a listing tool to do that? I think crucially, of course, it comes down to the P&L, profits, and your margins on those products. So again, how well have you drilled down into the cost structure of a product level with COGS, your cost of goods?
Yeah.
How do you know, again, the marketplace fees and commissions, how are they going to impact your efficiency on those channels? Do you have a level of insights, analytics that can be able to support your scaling growth on those channels? A big question also we get a lot within Base is, operationally, can your team cope with growth? And it sounds like a silly thing to question, but the CEO might say, I want my brand to be in new markets, or I want more sales, I want more, but can you cope with that extra level of demand on the team in terms of control with operationally? But of course, when the orders come in from different channels and different complexities from different markets, and your team cope with that. So again, managing your inventory pricing and ultimately those orders from the channels, are critical. Are you able to print your shipping labels manually, or can you try and automate that for those unexpected sales? So for me, I think it's being a little bit clear about your rollout. Scattergun is fine for some, but it has to be controlled. And for me, it's about being a little bit strategic in terms of developing a sequence of marketplaces that gives your business stability and control operationally, but also in terms of cash flow, etc.
Yeah, I think for me, I agree with your points, and you mentioned one part there where you're talking about inventory, and I think that is super important because realistically, if you stock out and you've got nothing else to sell, then you can't make any more money. So people who stock out, people who are overselling, if there's duplicate listings on the platforms that they're selling across, if you everybody's had it where people have bought products that say that they're in stock, and then you get an email a couple of days later from the warehouse being like, oh, sorry, we can't actually sell you that product. It was an inventory confusion. Here's your money back. And, the likelihood is you're just not going to go back to that seller again because you just think it's really base level, that you just know what products you actually have. So things like that can really affect trust for the consumer standpoint as well. So,
yeah, and I think that's really critical, right? I mean, ultimately, if you break it down, you could say, yes, if you don't have the product, you can't sell it. But actually, it's you're being able to keep a promise with the end customer, right?
Yeah,
they found your product either on your website or marketplaces, and you are then in a contract with them to deliver that. I think ultimately, if you break that, it has all sorts of consequences, right? Yes, they may not come back to you, but also it can affect bigger picture. I think without this accurate inventory manager, you do risk overselling again. Then therefore the consequences are your brand reputation might take a hit, but crucially your marketplace rating is going to be at risk as well. Sadly, when you do sell correctly and you deliver the order as per your contract, it's unusual that you get positive review all the time. Sadly, that's just life.
Yeah.
When you do default on your position where you can't fulfill that order, it's almost certain that you're going to get a negative review in some way, shape or form. Those negative reviews obviously impact potentially your buy box positioning on some of those marketplaces, but generally speaking, it will impact this all-important marketplace algorithm that will affect your short, medium, long-term positioning on those channels. So again, it's really critical to have an inventory tool. I mean, Base has one, others are available, of course, but again, to have this viewpoint across all your sales channels, all your territories, all your different warehouses, depending on the complexity of your setup. You can have different 3PLs. You can fulfill yourself for some products. You can use Amazon multi-channel fulfillment for some. You could use another 3PL, but to have real visibility on where you are with your products in any given time in your stock to make sure you can keep those promises. But crucially, of course, forecasting as well, knowing what stock to buy from which products based on the inventory that you have.
Yeah. What does Base do actually behind the scenes to synchronize the data that you're getting from warehouses and the stock that you're showing on platforms? Like, how does that integrate, and what will somebody see when they're using Base?
Yeah, and Base is again a really integrated solution that has data points going back and forth with all those channels and the 3PLs that are connected on a case-by-case basis. So the typical user will bring their data into Base. When they start, they might, for example, export their listings from Amazon into Base and use that as a platform as their PIM to then manipulate that for mapping onto eBay or OnBuy or whatever it may be. The data that sits within there can then be shipped across to the 3PL providers, or if they're using our inbuilt WMS system to fulfill those orders. It's really about how that data goes back and forth. And again, from an inventory perspective, you know where your stock is stored at any given time. When an item is sold in a marketplace, the stock then is updated accordingly, and the information is then sent to the warehouse to be able to fill those orders, where again, stock is managed from that physical perspective.
Yeah.
That order is sent out, and again, data pings back through Base to the marketplace to update there as well. So it's really just a continuation of data flow across all the connected channels.
What was a PIM, sorry?
Yeah. A PIM is a sort of product information sort of management tool.
Okay.
You use that instead of a spreadsheet, instead of Google Drive, all the data that's relevant to your product and products. So if you think about selling on any marketplace or website, you need images, you need content, you need the keywords that are going to help that product sell. And again, that's the centralized place to be able to keep it, where ultimately you can then automate that to sell on new channels or create new products.
Got it. So it's, instead of having like multiple different spreadsheets and multiple different information documents for the different platforms that you're selling on, the different products that you're selling, it's all compiled neatly into one place that you can refer back to.
That's it. And I think it's just having that centralized location where you can keep everything that you need at any given time. So it's having that flexibility to automate from where all your data is stored.
Okay, got it. Well, I think nowadays, especially, a lot of people have seen that, you know, the cost for ads on Amazon has skyrocketed. You know, eBay sort of had its moment at the early part of this century. You know, there was the big boom in like the early 2000s where that was hugely successful. But then, you know, it's sort of plateaued a little bit, I would say now. But now people are juggling Amazon, eBay, TikTok Shop, Etsy, like you say, OnBuy as well. So there's a lot of information out there, and to even remember the passwords for all of those platforms is a lot. So then to know exactly what you're storing and stocking on each platform as well, how many you have, which product lines are showing on which, are any of my listings deactivated? What reviews do I have on each platform? It's a lot for people to manage. So to have something like this that they can just refer to and go, there's all my products, cool, that this one's doing really well, maybe this one not so much, maybe I should turn my ads up a bit more on Amazon, maybe I should turn them down a little bit on Shopify because I'm not doing that well there. So to have all of that data in front of you must be a huge asset for your clients in particular.
Yeah, I mean, I think that data is such a big word and so important, right? And I think advertising is a slightly different space, but that's crucial, particularly again on some of the key marketplaces. You know, if you don't advertise on Amazon, you know, it's really, you're going to struggle enormously. You know, Amazon is an advertising platform now, and each platform alongside, so OnBuy or, you know, some of the miracle-based marketplaces, for example, are introducing retail media as well. And it's just one more lever to give that seller a little bit more of impetus to be able to make those channels a success. There is a whole art within that in terms of managing our ad budget sustainably and again strategically, which channels are the right places to be able to sort of focus your ad spend. And again, there are some brilliant agencies that can advise on that. I think from a base perspective, purely looking at the analytics side, there is the expectation to be multi-channel now because, again, you want your brand to be core to its roots in terms of making the right choice for those marketplaces. But traditionally, you want to be able to grow your brand. Again, it could be domestically or internationally. And there are so many channels to sell on. And ultimately, those marketplaces have their own set of consumers to reach as well. Social commerce, obviously TikTok Shop's been a big hit over the last couple of years, last year in particular in the UK. And there are new social commerce channels coming up too. So there's an expectation to be able to morph into that, which is a slightly different way of selling. You need more content creation and perhaps even a different team in the business to be able to showcase those products.
Yeah.
This adds a bit of stress and strain onto the business to be able to grow it sustainably. I think without this control and an element of efficiency, you need that to be able to launch the business, or you are going to run into problems, be it on a price point level because you're underselling your product. You're not quite sure of your profit margins on each. The order management side that we've spoken about in terms of making sure you can fulfill those orders. Logistics, how many more channels are going to add, again, complications of documentations you might need for different delivery points across the world. I think Base as a platform enables this brand or distributor, it could be a wholesaler selling to other B2B sellers, adds this control and gives a bit of direction for where that brand or seller needs to go. And equally, if you find a new channel that's selling particularly well, you can pivot for those away from those who are performing less well, perhaps.
What do you think are some of the pitfalls that a lot of people are falling into at the moment? And these, it doesn't necessarily have to be even new sellers, could be some like experienced sellers as well. But there's got to be some issues that you see crop up time and time again with the clients that you work with. So can you give me some examples of, like, I don't know, maybe the top 3 common mistakes that e-commerce sellers are making in, I know we're in December now, but in 2025 on the whole?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'd be surprised that some maturity of the businesses which are really has been accelerated are still making the same mistakes as a brand new startup might make.
Really?
And we work with some really big brands who come to Base because they want to, let's say, use a UK marketplace setup, and they want to sell in the US. And what they're doing is they're coming to us again with the CSV of their product data, and it's a mess. They're missing data at points for marketplaces, and there's no continuity for automation. Everything's very manual. That's a real blocker. Again, you're using a spreadsheet to be able to manage your products and how they appear on channels. It's very clunky and slow. For us, another thing we see is really big businesses who are printing shipping labels manually. There's an order from all these marketplaces, and they're just copying and pasting onto, again, a CSV, and then importing that into a printer to print labels one by one. At scale, when you're selling hundreds, thousands of orders a day in a week, this is very, very slow to the business. And what we see time and time again, is not that necessarily these are problems, but they don't know there's a better way to do stuff.
Sure.
You're happy in what you're doing. You've got a team of 6 people printing labels and fulfilling orders. You have a team of people using that CSV to create listings on marketplaces, etc. And it works until something breaks, and then you realize this is not the way to do it. And these people come to us thinking, this is how I do it, and it works.
Yeah.
Reality is what you're doing is a problem, and you don't know it's a problem. It's stopping your growth, it's sapping your time, it's sapping your energy, and senior leadership in those businesses are probably being sucked in too, when they should be spending a bit more time on the bigger picture stuff in terms of how do I grow my business.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, anything that takes away from productivity is inevitably an expense that could be avoided. So yeah, it makes perfect sense. And it's just surprising, actually. Surprising that that there are so many companies that still are not, we speak to so many people now who are like really into the whole idea of AI and automating everything. And, to hear direct from the source that there's still multinational companies that haven't even got printed sorted, which might seem like a really small thing, but as I say, the fact that it's taken away from someone's productivity where, they could be spending their time doing something much more beneficial to the business rather than printing out 1,000 labels a day and manually sticking to a box. You would just think that companies might have more foresight than that. But
I think again, they probably don't have the time to take stock, and that's, no pun intended. I think it's time to be able to look at the big picture and say, there has to be a better way. Until things break, you don't often have that inflection point to say, okay, I think this is not working for us, or I think there's a different way of doing things to be more efficient as a business. So it's not through stubbornness, although that is a factor, of course. People are reluctant to change. But I think, again, until they realize there is a better way, people just carry on down that path.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose then for advice going into 2026, a lot of people now are going to be thinking about New Year's resolutions and how they can optimize for next year and, growth on an exponential level. So what do you think people should be doing in order to make sure that they can really kill it next year. And that can be, I don't know, just top level. Like, what do you think is coming for e-commerce sellers in 2026? And are there any big changes that you already know about that people should be optimizing for?
I thought you were going to ask me what my New Year's resolutions were there. No,
less chocolate, less alcohol.
Yeah, sorry, we digress. Yeah, I mean, I think obviously AI is the word on everybody's lips, and that will continue to play a massive part. I think we're just scratching the surface, right? And I think it's probably educating people how to use AI in their day-to-day and how we adopt it as it advances. I think it will change.
You not think it's a bubble?
Sorry?
You don't think it's a bubble?
I think it will iterate, won't it? You know, I think it will change, particularly in terms of some of the solutions. And, you know, I think I use ChatGPT an awful lot in terms of how to create content or how to come up with different workflows, for example. But actually, it's still pretty clunky in places. You know, I'll try with my children's homework. It's not ideal. But there are ways that would improve and very quickly. So how quickly can we adopt that as businesses selling? Because we know that there are platforms that are going to use it to help sell and help the shopper buy. So how can we be as in tune as that as possible? I think with the emergence of more marketplaces, that will continue to come up, right? There'll be new channels and perhaps different ways of selling. So again, more social commerce. We see a lot of B2B sellers use our tool, what's called Base Connect, which is almost a supply and wholesaler marketplace within Base. Moving a little bit also to D2C as well. So we've got some of these sellers who want to sort of broaden out their operations to sell direct to consumer. So some of those brands may also want to go back offline to brick and mortar. You know, the high streets are emptying. Maybe there's a space to be able to go back onto the high street and bring those operations alongside their e-commerce channels. I think probably, and you guys will know this more than most at Avask, is the regulations and governance will probably also play a big part in cross-border selling. You know, what are the trends to keep up to date with? How does that impact your business in terms of that growth? Is it a barrier? Is it an accelerator? And I think probably a combination of all those things will play a part next year.
I think from our side, it just seems as though, like, especially with Europe, that regulation is just getting tighter. People are now looking to expand across more platforms because they just think that the more visible they are, the more chance that they're going to get more sales, which, you know, naturally would be the case. But there seems to be more of a diversification of platforms. And as you mentioned earlier, there's more people who are shifting towards TikTok Shop because they know that well, that's like an all-in-one platform now, especially for the younger generations. What are they? Generation Alpha? Is that what they're called now? Yeah, that's the rich one. I can't keep up either. But we've got Gen Z and Gen Alpha. So they're like, Gen Z, I think, is 1997 onwards, and Gen Alpha is like 2010 onwards.
Yep.
But those guys, you know, they're using TikTok Shop. They're discovering products now. You can also shop on Instagram as well, and like Meta. So that's kind of its own thing. But the whole idea of TikTok Shop and the fact that you go on there to just scroll through videos in your own time, and then before you know it, there's a product that's shown to you that really grabs you, and you go, all right, I didn't even know I needed that, but I guess I will buy it, and you buy it within the platform. You know, personally, I don't even have TikTok, right? I'm 29 years old, and I don't get it. I personally don't get it. If I want to buy something, I'm going to go out and buy that thing. So like for me, Amazon makes sense. If I need creatine, I'll go on Amazon, I'll buy some creatine and I'll turn off Amazon. If I need some new light bulbs for my flat because the lights in the hallway have popped, I'll go on Amazon, I'll buy the light bulbs, I'll go off Amazon, right? But these kids are going on TikTok, and they're going on TikTok in their downtime, and then before they know it, they go, oh, well, I've always wanted some light up shoelaces. Sure, I'll buy them. But I don't know. It's sort of like this whole idea of discovery shopping is kind of, to me, it seems as though people are indecisive and they're just being easily convinced, which that's just my personal opinion. But, it's a whole another way of discovering things that, as you mentioned, it's all about content creation and it's all about conveying a convincing story to somebody to make them purchase that product. And it's got to be the way that it's described, the visuals behind it, the story that the advertisement is telling. That's what's going to get the sale. So the shift towards that is something that's still quite new.
But I think it is that different way of connecting with the consumer, the passive shopper, right? So as you say, when you know what you want, you go to a shop to make that purchase. That place or destination then has the duty of showing what you need in the quickest time, the fewest clicks, at the best price, and probably the product with the best value.
Can I get it tomorrow?
Yeah, even if you don't need it tomorrow. You're
still going to click that though, aren't you? Even if you don't need it tomorrow, you might need it in like a week's time, but if you can get it by same day, 4 p.m, you're like, yeah, hell yeah, all right.
Yeah, and in turn, that has added more pressure on every business where expectations are so heightened, where you've got any product should be deliverable in the next sort of 24, 48 hours. And if it doesn't, you will lose that potential sale, right? But back to TikTok again, it's a different way of connecting with shoppers who are just absorbing so much content because that's the way of the world. And subliminally or not, they're getting, products pushed to them. Well, yeah, those shoelaces are terrific. Yeah, every good pair of shoes needs, light up shoelaces. What a great idea. But it's a way of, and even ChatGPT to an extent has that now, where it's actually a promotional tool.
Yeah.
It's bringing in so much data, you have to be able to use ChatGPT to advertise your products, essentially, to make sure your content is available to be ingested in ChatGPT. And that's a good source alongside Google's and Amazon's as a directory of where you can find information about your products.
Yeah, 100%. We've done that test as well. I don't think on this podcast, but just in our own videos, just saying like, hey, I need to get a pair of ski goggles. They need to be size medium. They need to be black. They need to be delivered to Southampton within a week. They need to be in stock less than £100 on ChatGPT. And it goes, sure. And it populates a whole list on a carousel of different options. And then it might come back and it starts apologizing for itself a little bit. And it'll go, oh, well, I can find these and these are within budget, but these are red. So here are some additional options. But to me, in my own personal life, that's completely replaced Google Shopping now. Google Shopping, you would have to be awfully specific with what you wanted, and it would still give you random results because Google is obviously using SEO and people are paying it for sponsored ads that are completely irrelevant. But ChatGPT doesn't have that same bias. So the fact that you can just say, I want this, this, and that, and its algorithm obviously is a bit like TikTok's. It's trying to keep you as engaged as possible, and I think that's the reason why it can be overall positive towards you sometimes. And I'm sure in your own interactions with ChatGPT, it's like, oh yeah, Pete, you're fantastic, and this is a wonderful idea, and your children's homework is a doddle, and let me fix that for you. And it's very like, okay, I get this. It's a bit poshy.
That will tone down. And what a great question, Lewis.
Well, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that sounds difficult.
I'm a genius? What? You're telling me I'm a genius?
I'm going to ask a question again. But I think it's one of those things, and that will probably soften. And of course, that's part of the, again, the tactility and softness to encourage you to stay loyal to that tool. Again, that's a clever way of doing that too. But I think, again, there's such a transitional point, a big shift about how people shop. I think people are increasingly savvy about sponsored products. I'm not going to buy from them because someone's selling to me. I want to browse at my own time. It's like walking into a shop and having an overly helpful assistant saying, can I help you, sir? It's like, no, leave me alone, thanks very much.
Yeah.
So I think it's different approaches, and you're able to do your shopping for from a very sort of targeted approach. You know exactly what you want. You want 3 options, and you'll probably choose the middle one, and you're done within 25 seconds. And then as you go around your day. So I think, again, that has changed the way people shop, which should therefore change the way people sell.
Okay. So how should people change the way they sell, in your opinion?
So then it comes down to visibility, right? How is your content showcased? Does it have all the things that shoppers need? So your pair of skis that you need, are you showcasing that you're selling skis? Have you got all the right keywords that mention how great these skis are, the right sizes, price points? Is everything listed? Crucially, the more data that's out there about your products is probably going to impact how ChatGPT finds your products too. I'm no expert on this, but again, it's about being present in the right channels to be able to say, this is the information that ChatGPT will look for in any shopper. And the more, again, present you are in all those channels, the more likely you are to be found to make that sale.
Yeah. Okay. So with all that in mind then, let's put you in the hot seat for a second. And if we dropped you in the deep end and we said that this weekend, Pete, you have to start again and you have to create your own brand with no additional backing, no resources. So fresh, clean slate, new brand, Pete DuPont LTD. What are you doing and why?
I thought I was in the hot seat already, but it's getting hotter. I think certainly starting anything now is a challenge, right? And it's a big leap. I really admire people who do it. From my experience, or even as a shopper as well, and perhaps this is being diluted a bit with marketplaces, but the importance of having a storefront, for example, it's about the brand and who is the brand? What does it stand for? Is there a nice, sort of powerful story behind it? Does it mean something? I would think that's a really important place to start. What is your mission as a seller? Is it shoelaces? And what is your mission? And is it to make shoes fun because they light up? Is it because, I don't know, in lockdown, you were really bored and you wanted to entertain the kids and you thought, actually, yeah, their shoelaces are dull? Is it because you have children who can't put their shoes on in the morning and you need to help them get their school shoes on? Now, maybe these laces aren't appropriate for school, so that's a different conversation. But the brand is important. The product has to be right. Is it something that is out there that can be done better in the way that you build your product? Is it something that, again, the world might need, or your local community might need, or the local market might need? Marrying those two things up, I think what's difficult is starting a new business where you're selling A4 paper or something, for example. Competition is really rife, price points are difficult, margins are low. How do you think about trying to find that niche of developing something that you're excited about, something that has a story behind it and something that people need, but equally that where the market isn't flooded? I think if you start on those bases, then you can be able to build out your strategy of how do you then sell it? How do you market that? And again, for me, if it was a brand with a great story, or a marketplace with a storefront, you need the ability to be able to showcase that. So again, how do you get your story from your head onto a marketplace page or a Shopify or WooCommerce site that has lovely pictures, that connects, that showcases the product in the right way, shape or form, and that resonates with the shopper? How do they get that connectivity? Because that way you start to build up that lifetime value for that consumer. Is it a product they're going to want to buy every year, every 10 years? Is there a story behind sustainability that resonates, etc.? So there's so many moving parts to building a brand that connects with consumers. For me, that's probably the foundational layer. I think, again, it's now, where do we sell it and how do we promote it? Using influencers maybe to be able to push to your website. Do you want to start on a marketplace where there's lots of traffic already? How do you build up this thing? And it's so complex starting from scratch. But again, if you can have a couple of areas where you're focusing on in terms of you've got a website now which tells your story, you've got a marketplace or two marketplaces where you're testing the waters, you know that you'll have a good margin on them or even some margin to be able to build out that base and build up those reviews to start selling those products. That's continuity. And again, continuity can breed more success. So you might want to bring on more members of the team in due course. But there are so many moving parts. And again, even that post-sale experience of customer service, again, how do you create that connection and that loyalty with your shoppers? How do you upsell and resell? How do you keep them happy? How do you keep track of your stock to make sure, again, you can keep those promises and avoid those negative feedbacks that can hamper your growth?
Okay. So with all that then, you were mentioning about like creating a story behind the brand to really start it. So if you did have zero resources, I suppose the easiest way to get in is to be a reseller of an already established product rather than spending the money on R&D of a brand new item that you want to create. So if you were starting genuinely with nothing and you had to resell a product first, it's maybe in the category that you want to eventually get into, but maybe you can see that the things that are on the market don't quite have the same attributes as what you have in your mind. So let's say that I don't know what it might be. So let's say that you're selling like podcast microphones, right? And you can get these. They're a penny a dozen. You can buy them directly from China. You're going to drop ship them from like you're gonna buy 1,000 of them on Alibaba or something like that, and then you're going to bring them to the UK. You might rebrand them slightly and then just sell those first, sell through those to get an understanding of what the market is, what the appetite for the product is. But you've got an idea that's going to change this. Maybe it's got built-in surround sound, or maybe you know a lot about microphones and you can change it in a way that's, completely different for the market, whatever that might be. What do you do from that point? Do you just like start with one product, or do you reckon you would start with multiple different things so that you can appeal to wider audiences? Again, it's sort of that play-off between focus and doing it right, or visibility and spread. And what was the term you used earlier, like the spray gun or splatter gun or something? What was it?
That sort of scattergun approach.
Yeah.
I think it ultimately in this scenario comes down to cash flow and capital, right? I think drop shipping is a great way to get used to e-commerce selling. It's finding a product, and there's so many great tools that you can use to be able to analyze marketplaces and try and find products that have good potential that maybe aren't selling as well, or gaps in the market. If you can find something that is great to be able to use that as your way into e-commerce and multi-channel selling, then drop shipping or buying products for you to sell that are working well but can be improved is a good way to start. If you have more capital available to you, you can hedge your bets a bit on which products are going to be the ones that push the lever up, or that sort of cash cow that can help you really accelerate the business growth. If you're really restricted on money, then of course that's more challenging because it limits how you can develop your own product, but also buy the stock for those products you want to buy directly from China, for example. So I think it is obviously a bit restrictive, depending on what resource you have at your disposal to get started.
Now, just before we get to the outro part of this, because I'm going to just start to wrap it up from here, but where do people find you? What should people be getting in touch with you for? And where should people find you? What should people be getting in touch with you for? And really, how can you assist them for now and for 2026 and even beyond that?
Bases available around the world. We have a UK team based near Brighton, but you can find us online at base.com or find me and the team on LinkedIn. for us, I think people come to Base for a number of different reasons. And it can be this element of chaos. You're logging into 3 or 4 different marketplaces and you realize that there has to be a better way. People come to us because they want to start selling on more channels, and it could be, I want to start selling on Temu, or I want to start selling on B&Q or Debenhams or Decathlon. They come to us for scaling. Typically, when we speak to brands, wholesalers, distributors, resellers, they come to us with one particular pain point. But in every conversation, you sort of unwrap that there's a deeper layer of problems. They haven't realized the problems, and again, it's about having that, we can fix this initial query that you've come to us for. And again, we can put you on Temu, or we can help look at your PIM in terms of how you store your data, or you can use our WMS to fulfill your orders. These are solutions as a quick sort of fix, but actually operationally and strategically, there's a whole tool here, and there's a whole layer of problems that can be aligned together to support that business growth, which ultimately people are looking for as that long-term sustainable e-commerce growth, which Base as a platform can support, and our ecosystem, including partners like ours, could support with too.
Well, we do wildly different things as well. So, you guys fit in at a certain point within the whole process of expanding. And, we fit in a completely different part. So, we complement one another, I would say, in the whole wider picture of what it means to be an international e-commerce business.
Yeah. So, and then particularly, with that use case, we find lots of UK sellers are now thinking about selling on Walmart in the US.
Yeah.
And the bigger strategic question in terms of scaling internationally has its complexities in terms of logistics, understanding the local market and the consumers, but equally in compliance and having all the right taxation bits and pieces sorted for you is critical. And without that, that's obviously a real blocker. So that's obviously why we love working with you guys.
And it's not a sexy industry to be in, the sort of tax and compliance and legislation and regulatory tick boxing exercises that we do. But, I would say that the best way to describe it to other people is look at the benefits that you can achieve when you do this unsexy part. So it's, you've got to kind of crawl through the mud before you get to like the nice rolling hills. You know what I mean? So, it's a necessary evil. We'll put it that way.
Certainly is.
All right, Pete. Well, as I say, where can people find you? Other than base.com, they can get you on LinkedIn. Can they drop you an email? Do you want to give that out, or is that confidential?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so it's pete.dupont@base.com, or come and find us on our website and use our contact form. But our team are always around 24/7 to be able to support any queries and see how we can support your business and solve some problems for you.
Perfect. Well, let's wrap it up there. But before we do, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. And I'm sure we'll do something like this again in the future. But that's it for me. So thank you once again.
Thank you, Lewis. Great to speak to you. Thanks for your time.
All right. All the best, Pete. Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.